Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you a 3D printing video that I haven't really done before. So I'm going to hopefully kind of show you guys how to get started with 3D printing, resin 3D printing, take away some of the fears that people might have, and show you how easy it really is to get set up with 3D printing and get some miniatures on the table in absolutely no time at all, and for a very reasonable price. To give you a little bit about my kind of credentials into 3D printing, I have quite a few 3D printers. They're kind of everywhere. You know, Artillery Sidewinder Mark II or the SP Pro from 2.3s. I've got a pair of Anycubics around the room as well. I've got my original ones, my Anycubic Photon, which is one of the first kind of commercial resin 3D printers that everyone could get their hands on. Anycubic i3 Mega sitting there. Those ones are both kind of retired. They were my first 3D printers that I got 5 years ago now. I've been 3D printing for. Back then it was quite expensive to get into them. Those two printers cost nearly, I don't know, 1,000, 1,200 euro to buy those two printers because I wanted to try FDM and resin at the same time. But now I have been sent another 3D printer. I have not opened it, or well, I have opened it. I've opened the top just to make sure what it was, but I have not taken anything out of this box. It is a Gitech 3D printer. It looks something like this. And like I said, that's it. I haven't taken anything else out or opened it up or had a look or seen what it is. So I'm going to show you the whole process of me taking it out of the box, getting it set up, getting a print going, and getting that print painted in a single video, and showing you guys exactly what you can do with a printer that costs no more than 100 euro. You can be printing for 100 euro, which is kind of insane. Now, of course, a little caveat that of course doesn't include things like resin and some isopropyl alcohol to clean the resin afterwards, but there's very affordable versions of both of those out there as well, so I can talk to you a little bit about those in the video as well. So I'm hopeful that by the end of this we'll have a miniature that we would value at more than 100 euro done from a 100 euro printer. If you think that's cool, then stick around and enjoy this video. Gitech did send me this printer free of charge, although they're not paying for a promotional spot or anything like that. I can say absolutely whatever I want about this thing. If it's a piece of junk, it's a piece of junk, but I don't think it will be. I think it'll print just fine, but I guess only time will tell. So let's stick around and enjoy this one, guys. Okay, I guess first things first, we should take this thing out of the box. So it starts with 14. So if you get stuck or you're in trouble, then yeah, there's a thank you for buying a Gitech and some contact, like literally really clear instructions as to how to get in contact if you're having problems, which I think is super cool. I have never seen that before in anything. So that was really cool, really like that. Standard user manual as per usual. Let's see what else we've got. You have your power cord, of course. The usual bits and pieces, a spatula for removing 3D prints from the bed. It's actually kind of a different spatula. It says normal ones, I kind of like it. Allen keys, the tweezers, which you don't usually get, which is really nice for removing supports. And two bolts, which I presume are to hold the resin vat in place. And let's see how this thing, do the traditional flip the box upside down and try and get this thing out without breaking anything. Oh. Probably upside down, so flip it back the right way. There we have it. The other part of the power cord. Make sure there's nothing left behind in any of the material. I have been cut out with that before. USB stick for transferring files from your computer to your 3D printer. UV protective cover. Obviously resin is cured by the LCD screen, but if you didn't have this, the sun would cure it in your vat and that would be a disaster. Well packaged, lots of protection, lots of foam, keeping everything kind of in place and secure. I'm going to release the bolt so I can take the print bed out. Removing that. Get rid of packaging. get rid of packaging. Here's your vat for holding your resin. Your build plate, quite small, but you know, that's kind of all you need for resin printing these days. Most things are cut down and sliced so that you can print out in smaller batches. So there's pretty much all the bits and pieces that you get. So you can see it's quite simple. Power, build plate, vat, user manual, few tools, USB key, and actual resin printer. That's all you need to get yourself going. So I'm going to show you guys how to put this together and get it calibrated now and show you how easy that is. Then I'm going to pour some resin in, pick a cool file, get it printed, and then I'm actually going to paint it up. So hopefully by the end of this we'll have something cool to show you guys. So I know my head has been cut off for this entire bit, but I reckon you'd rather see the printer than my head. So, you know, deal with that as you will. So back in a minute, guys. Okay, so now that it is, it's basically plugged in now, so I'm going to give it a bit of power. And hopefully it should turn on, no problem. We have an alive screen. Gonna remove the safety, which is a very satisfying thing, but also you gotta be careful with these. You get so much static electricity. Static electricity and computerized things do not go together. I'm not gonna remove this one because this one's the one that covers your LCD screen. You don't want any dust or smudges or anything like that. That can compromise the print a little bit. Not as much as the internet will tell you it will. The LCD screen is quite a powerful thing and it will burn through most of that kind of crap. But still, if you want 100% clear prints, then don't mess with this. Try and keep this as clean as possible. Okay, so without looking at the user manual, I'm going to have a quick look through some of the settings. In tools, we have the normal manual movement stuff. We have exposure tests. We have set 0, clean raw material and stop. That makes sense. System. Adjust. There's an after sales section with a QR code. That's really cool. Never seen that before. There's different languages. There's a lot of languages. Quite clever. Current language set to English. That's what we like to see. Alright, cool. So with tools, we wonder what this thing is set to home. Now, one of the things you should not do is attach your build plate before you set this thing to home for the first time, because home is going to basically put this thing to where it begins printing. If it's set wrong and, you know, home is set too low with the build plate, it'll start kind of smushing into the bottom. It shouldn't do any damage really. So there you go, that's what it's telling you home is at. And as you can see, this is movable because it's not in place. All you want to do really is get a piece of paper. Piece from the user manual is fine. And all you want is the Allen keys. The Allen key is obviously going to be used to tighten the bolts on this thing to stop it from moving around. But we don't want this thing completely flat. So they always recommend you have a little bit of paper underneath it. And all you want to do is have it so there's a little bit of resistance in sliding the paper out from underneath the build plate. There's 4 bolts. They usually recommend that you tighten the bolts one at a time and go to opposite corners. So I will do front right first. Tighten that good and tight. Then I'm going to go to back left and tighten that one. This just gives you a better chance of getting it perfectly flat, smooth. Now if this isn't set up right and you are not happy with it, you can of course adjust and then reset what home is. Home is not something that is locked into your printer. You can change it. And obviously the pros out there and the people who want to get 100% perfect prints will kind of mess around and check this all the time to make sure that it stays at true 0. Obviously when you're taking this build plate off all the time, scraping resin prints off of it, you can mess with these bolts, and if you mess with them a little bit, it can kind of make them off tilter, which is not exactly what you want. Okay, so those are pretty sturdy now. Can we remove the piece of paper? So I would say that the moving of the paper is actually a little bit too tight. I'm not happy with that. So you can choose to move it up 1 mil or 10 mil. So I just want to go, or 0.10 mil. So I'm going to go to 0.10 mil and then move it up a little bit. And basically I'm going to do that once or twice until, like I said, it is now smooths out a little bit. Now if I go up even one more, suddenly it's all flying around the place. There's no resistance. So I'm gonna go back down by that 1/10 of a mil until I get that nice bit of resistance. That's perfect. So we go back on our screen, we set to 0, Z detected, confirm. So I've now set the position of this to 0. This is what I want. So now we can manually move it. So we want to go 10 mil. So I need these 2 bolts. These hold the build plate in place. You can actually put them in a little bit already. These should never be 100% removed from your printer, unless you're like doing a deep clean of the area. Okay, so just like the other surface, the surface that's inside of this, you don't particularly want that to get smudges or to get dirty or anything like that. So we'll remove this. Don't want that. There is one on this side as well, so we're going to remove that. This is what we want to be super crisp, super clear, and super free of smudges. Okay, now we can remove the one on the screen. Little tab here. Remove that. And we can slide this in. And then rotate these bad boys until they are nice and tight. Okay, that's now in place. Nice and steady, nice and sturdy, which is what we want. It is now ready to have resin poured in and then us to hit print on something. So the only thing I don't like about this printer so far is the USB port is on the back. And usually the machine is against a wall or it's built into a cubby like I have mine over there. I don't like the idea of constantly having to reach around or over the machine to plug this, because you do plug this thing in and out pretty much every time you want to add a print file. So most of the printers have them on the front or on the side. This is kind of the first one I've seen on the back, which I think is a bit of a silly move, so we won't worry about that too much for now. Grab some resin, pour it into the vat. It has a maximum fill line. I'm going to go a little bit below that. Close up the resin. This obviously doesn't want to get in the sun as well. Now it's time, very important, that we close the top as well. We do not want this thing being exposed to sun or light or anything like that, because that will obviously help the resin cure, and we don't particularly want that resin cured. So now I just need to pick a file that I want to print and then hit print. So I'm going to disappear now, jump onto my computer and find something cool to print out, and yeah, I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, I've added some files. Let us plug this thing into the back to print and see if things come up. Okay, and when the print is finished, the bed will raise up to the very top. Your 3D prints will be on the top here. So what you need to do is remove your safety lid as per usual. And then what you do is you don't touch this. This is not very nice stuff. Liquid resin is kind of dangerous. Even when I was pouring in the liquid resin, I probably should have put on gloves, but sometimes I'm just a little bit lazy. And I don't like reusing gloves. Because like I said, you've got resin on them. So I usually only do it at the end when I'm trying to touch things and not touch things, if that makes sense to you. So I put on a pair of black gloves. You want to buy powderless gloves because you don't want the powder getting into the resin or into your vat or into your machine or anything like that. And they're better for miniature painting and stuff anyway. So I've got these nice black ones that I got from Amazon, no big deal. So gloves, so you stay safe. You also notice that I put down a mat. I should have done that before I hit print, but basically I do that to protect my work surfaces. I use trays, or if you want to put down some wax paper or whatever. It's just still a cutting mat that's upside down, an old one. So to move the printer a little bit back, unscrew the top, flip it around, and we have our beautiful 3D prints. Just wanted to pull you guys a little bit closer so you could see what I was looking at. As you can see, what I have is I have an epic shadow sword here. I have an epic scale Lehman Russ, and I couldn't choose on the turret, so I got the Demolisher and the Vanquisher turret for this little guy. Now, as you can see, there's still resin all over it, that sheen. And this is the stuff you don't want to be touching your skin. This is the bad stuff. So we need to wash this off. Now, I have a fancy wash and cure station next to my Anycubic machine for washing and curing that, but all you need to do is take it off the bed. So you scrape it off, and then swirl it around in some IPA, just to clean off the remaining resin. It's not exactly a crazy hard job to do. So you would just get your spatula, which comes with the printer, which is nice. You slowly get it under it, and after a little bit of apprehension, it should just pop right off, and you are left with your beautiful epic scale shadow sword. Okay, like I said, I have a fancy wash and cure station which kind of does this stuff for me automatically, but we're doing a kind of just get you started one. This is what I used beforehand, which is just an old container which I've just spilled, which is fine. And all it is IPA in it, so isopropyl alcohol. You take the resin print in a gloved hand, and all you do is swirl it around. This will dissolve and get rid of the remaining resin material on the prints, which we do not want to be there. Okay, so now that we have our prints washed, it's time to remove the supports. For this, I find the best way to do it is with a cup of hot water, and then all you do is hold I use clippers to hold the miniature so I don't burn my fingers. I dunk it in for only a couple of seconds, and then it should just pull away. There you go. No force required. Nothing to do but a perfect print. And then we have the supports that we put to one side. Do it with something a little bit more fragile, so the Vanquisher turret for the Lehman Russ. Stick it in 1, 2, 3, kind of 3 seconds, and it should just pull away from the supports. Absolutely no problem. So I printed out another batch of these miniatures on a more expensive printer, and the idea behind it was for me to show you that there wasn't going to be any difference in, you know, the more expensive or the less expensive printer. But it turned out that the cheaper printer gave me a better result than the other one. So there was a little bit of lifting, a little bit of warping on the more expensive one. So let's just not mention that too bad, but a good showing for Geeetech. I got the model sprayed as per usual, like I normally do. I'm not going to give you an in-depth painting video on how I did this thing. I'm just going to throw some contrast on, some layers, some transfers, some weathering, and just have some fun with it. I think it's more important for me to talk about 3D printing a little bit more. Like as you've seen from the beginning of this video, I didn't even look at a user manual to get the printer set up and going. The only difficulty I did have whilst using this printer was in setting up the files. I just had a simple mistake where I was transferring all files. When I was slicing them, I was using STL format instead of the CBS format. But once I figured that out, everything was really smooth going from there. So as goes a printer that costs a mere €100, I think the results are incredible. Like I said back in the day when I got my first pair of printers, it cost me a fortune, well over €1,000 to get 2 of them. And now people can get involved in 3D printing for €100. It just blows my absolute mind. And I think to myself about the idea of, you know, you could buy a Combat Patrol box for €120 from Games Workshop, or you could, you know, you could buy a big Forge World tank for a couple of €100. And we do this without thinking about it. They're awesome models, so we buy them. So I think it's fair to say that if you are interested in 3D printing and it's something that you might want to get into, I think a €100 investment to give it a try is something that's quite reasonable. I am going to be doing some videos in the next couple of weeks on a cheaper version of Resin, which maybe if you guys enjoyed this video and you are thinking about getting into 3D printing, maybe wait for that video so you can see the cheaper Resin, and that may make getting into it even easier again. But I mean, think about that teeny tiny tank that I'm painting up, and look at all the detail that it still has. Vents, heavy bolter turret, like literally every hatch, every hinge, every bolt is visible and on the tank, which I just cannot believe. I'm super pleased with the result. I hope this video is in some way, shape or form informative for you guys, and it helps to alleviate some of the fears that you have about getting into this awesome hobby. Okay guys, and there we have it. We had a pile of goop in the form of uncured resin this morning, and thanks to the help of a €100 printer, I was able to turn that goop into an epic Lehman Russ and get it painted in a single day. It was an extremely easy process to go from a printer in a box to on the table setup to 2 or 3 hours later when the print is done to be painting up a beautiful new miniature. That really is how easy it is these days to get into 3D printing. The only thing stopping you is you. Don't go for the pressure of people telling you always need the 3D printer, you should get into 3D printing. If it's something that interests you, of course, check out that link below. Check out the link to this amazing starter printer. I don't think you'd be disappointed if you picked one up. And yeah, get yourself into it. If it's something that scares you or is something that you're not really that interested in, then leave it to everybody else. Just because everyone else is talking about it doesn't mean you have to get involved. But a huge thank you to Geeetech for sending out that printer for my review. All I can say about it is I wish the USB port was in the front, but other than that, it was an extremely easy printer to use, to set up, to get going, and it gave me an absolutely stellar print. So yeah, gets a 2 thumbs up from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like. Ask me any question you want in the comments below. I'll get back to absolutely everybody that does. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do. I do content on all sorts of miniature wargaming, all sorts of 3D printing and painting and airbrushing and all sorts of craziness. So there should be something here for everybody to enjoy. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.